The greatest danger for humanity today, because it is the only real danger, is man himself. Consider this reality. He is his greatest enemy, and at the same time, we all remain utterly unaware of this. Doesn't it feel like there's an invisible force that is stopping you from achieving the success, love, and freedom you know you can have? And the worst part? Trying everything from Emildano's setting, visualization, and even working yourself to the bone? Everything always seems to lead to a dead end. Now imagine for a moment that this is not random at all. What if I told you that a part of you, and the only part of you that is buried so deep, secretly controls the life you are living? This influence affects your relationships, your finances, and even your fate. And here's the horrifying piece. 99% of people will remain ignorant of this reality for the rest of their lives. They will simply die with this hidden force, all the while deep inside life, being unaware of the chains that rule their life. But you aren't, because you are about to learn something so powerful, so harmful, so liberating that the illusion has held you captive your entire life. But be warned, once you see it, you can never unsee it. True freedom and authentic expression give rise to a way of being which is in recognition of the illusion of the self. 3. People have been trying to seek out answers for centuries, and the same questions seem to linger. Why do I keep making the same blunders time and time again? Why do I repeatedly self-sabotage precisely at the moment when things appear to be going right? Why do I feel drawn to the same toxic relationships, debilitating struggles, and unexplainable fears? This problem was solved by one man. This man was Carl Jung, a Swiss psychologist whose perspectives forever changed the view of the human mind. Jung uncovered that every individual contains a concealed, unconsciously perceiving self, a person's features, wants, and feelings which they have been taught to deny. It is possible you grew up being told that displaying anger is bad, thus you bottle up your feelings. Or perhaps you were made to feel that wanting wealth is sinful, hence you subconsciously chose to self-sabotage. Or perhaps you are so scared of being unwanted that you play so small without understanding that you are the one preventing yourself from becoming so much more. 1. But here's the most mind-blowing part. To Jung, the shadow was not a deficiency. It was a latent strength waiting to be uncovered. He noted, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Every single fear, every limitation that exists for you is not an accident. It is the work of your mind taking charge while you do nothing. If left unaddressed, you are bound to live in the same cycles for the remainder of your life." Alas, Jung also discovered that the shadow was precious, for if one should encounter it, that person would be free of its grasp. Are you prepared to break free? In the next few minutes, I will tell you exactly how to do just that. The only real danger one faces in this world is himself, and ironically, his greatest enemy is himself. Most people live their lives oblivious to the idea that they could be the perpetrators of their own failure. Do you get the feeling that there is something obscure that stands in the way of you achieving the life that you have always dreamed of? You set unrealistic goals for yourself and visualize accomplishing them. You even end up working harder than you have ever done before. Yet time and time again comes hard reality check, where no matter how hard you try, you continue to end up in similar hurdles, similar obstacles, and similar letdowns. Do you want to know the crazy part? This is not a coincidence. Instead, something dormant deep within you has been manipulating and controlling your entire universe, which includes your work, relationships, self-esteem, and even fate. It is really scary to consider the fact that almost no one ever comes face to face with that part of reality. To put it bluntly, The majority of the population goes their whole life without experiencing waking life while being completely unaware of the scavenging force that drains the potential out of them. You are different. I can confidently say that you have not deluded yourself into believing that everything around you is all sunshine, while constantly being on the verge of uncovering a paradox so astonishing and terrifyingly life-changing, waiting to liberate you from illusions that have encapsulated your life. Throughout history, there are some questions that continue to puzzle everyone, such as, why can't I change my ways? Why do I always get in my own way the moment my life begins to take a turn for the better? Why do I get involved in unhealthy relationships that bring along pain, expectations, and suffering? A single man had answers to most such questions. Carl Jung was a psychologist from Switzerland who at the mid-1900s made astonishing claims about the human mind, which radically shifted our understanding of it. The discoveries, Jung claimed, are far too deep and uncomfortable, to the point that they illustrate the reasons behind why so many people of today continue to voluntarily confine themselves within self-imposed, undetectable walls. Jung made one of the most famous discoveries. Every individual possesses a hidden, unmapped life within them that is beyond their control. This life comprises of different characteristics, aspirations, and feelings that a person develops throughout their life and learns to cast away. Perhaps you had a guardian or teacher figure who taught you that feeling anger is reprehensible, so you learned how to control and mask it. Maybe you were guilt-tripped for nurturing even the aspiration for obtaining wealth, leading to self-imposed limitations over your own success. Or deeper still, it is possible that the fear of being rejected and hurt keeps a person so small that they remain big in a small place. These claims illustrate that it is a sole responsibility, detached from any help, which encompasses an individual into confinement. But here's the most astonishing truth. Jung did see the shadow, but as a flaw. For Jung, it was a matter of realizing one's utmost capabilities. The very aspect of yourself that you've suppressed for all your life is where your greatest strength resides. He warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Consider that for a moment. Everything you're struggling with right now, the doubts, the fears, the limits you are perpetually running into, are no flukes. They stem from the lack of conscious control you possess over yourself being the one in charge. If you don't face it, confront it, then you are bound to repeat the same cycles over and over for the rest of your life. But there is a way out. Jung readily explained that the moment you confront your shadow, something incredible takes place. You stop being controlled by it. The moment you call the deeply seated factors that are controlling your life to the surface, you take back control, in not only your thoughts, but your life as a whole. Pause for a moment to reflect on an intense emotional interaction you might have had with someone because, to be blunt, everyone has one. Perhaps this is an embodiment of resentment, jealousy, or anger. Those could have stemmed from a self-righteous coworker, a seemingly excessively successful friend, or even a stranger who makes no logical sense but nips at your nerves. Here's what might shock you. That case-in-point reaction did not stem from them, it emanated from you. Jung found out that the shadow is revealed through projection, self to the maximum. What this boils down to is the reason you may find it utterly irritating when others boast is because you have deeper issues with yourself that you have yet to come to terms with. More often than not, you tend to grudge on arrogant people because perhaps, on a subconscious level, you want to possess such grandiose self-confidence and were raised with the need to become smaller. You may also loathe someone for their unnecessary display of wealth, with the inner part of yourself so desperately wishing to achieve success, but feeling unworthy deep down. Have you noticed a pattern in your commonplace attraction to toxic relationships? You may very well be falling victim to your shadow, which, unbeknownst to you, is forcefully leading you to what is comfortable, even if it brings harm. As seen from Jung's work, one can understand that the world is a mirror, one that is unprecedentedly active in serving the pieces of you that are in desperate need of mending. If neglected, you can be rest assured to be trapped in the all-too-familiar cycle of patterns. By learning to read these signs, however, probability speaks that you gain unadmitedly potent power, the unique ability to reshape your reality. From this point onwards, you will never be the same. The shadow is not your enemy. It is the missing piece needed to unleash the hidden potential you possess. So, the real question becomes, how do you plan to utilize it? Let's face it, the majority of people will never meet their shadow. Instead, they will choose to ignore it while scapegoating everything and everyone other than themselves. And it is no surprise that these people will keep repeating the same cycles of pain while asking themselves why life is arduous. They will unconditionally remain in the state of being stuck without realizing that the prison lock has always been open. But that is not you. Not anymore. You have accepted the truth, and the moment you do, there is no looking back. The shadow is not just an idea. It permeates every aspect of life, controlling your feelings, reasoning, and decisions. It is the reason you keep opportunity at arm's length. It is why you choose to deny love prior to it denying you. It is why the taste of success is equally feared as it is savored. The shadow is not an imaginary figure. It is you, the embodiment of an individual school to play safe, the embodiment of a person labeled as insufficient, the embodiment of an individual who wishes to achieve more but is too often disillusioned. Now, everything shifts here. When you cease to battle your shadow and lend an ear to it, you will witness everything change. Rather than a source of life that restricts you, it transforms into an existence that takes you where you are destined to reach. It bears all the secrets of self-assurance, innovative flair, and even personal success, romance, and freedom. Your shadow isn't your adversary. Rather, it is a supportive ally. Unleashing the hidden treasures within you lies behind embracing the shadow. How do you proceed? You trigger yourself first by examining who irritates you, what situations reduce you to nothing, and which feelings you'd rather not encounter. These annoying pieces of your existence are simply the shadow addressing you. Take a moment before attacking each and every one of them. What lesson is each of these presenting to the teacher you wish to call yourself? For example, why does someone else's arrogance irritate you so much? Perhaps you do admire a bit of that self-assuredness deep and center in the confines of your consciousness. For some, feeling envious of someone else's prosperity must mean one thing. You do desire great things in life, but there is something phenomenal about you feeling as if you are undeserving of them. There is indeed so much the external world needs to be forgiven for, and having to analyze each and every one of your triggers should guide you to looking internally. Everything you need is within you. The second portion entails confronting what you have decided to remain hidden far too deep in your memory. Pick a cozy spot, close your eyes, and take time to think about what you have been subconsciously running away from so desperately and for such a long period of time. What self-destructive behavior have you internalized? What do you feel begs for fulfillment, yet terrifies you to the core? At first, we all wish to run from these kinds of thoughts. What you should do instead, though, is the opposite. Instead, embrace them. Capture them on paper. Help them escape confinement. Taking action upon sighting them means no longer allowing them to control you. This stage takes us to the most powerful step of all, integration. Everything that you think you have rejected in yourself is actually a source of untapped power energy that just waits to be claimed. Anger? Anger is not destructive. It is passion, drive, and the fire that pushes you forward. Fear? Fear is not weakness. It is showing you exactly where your next breakthrough can be. Jealousy? It's not shameful. Jealousy is a sign that points you towards something deep that enables you to claim what you are meant to claim. Everything and anything that can be termed a primary emotion involves traits, desires, passion, and are suppressed, which is not wanted. Ever wondered why? These feelings can be manipulated to work in your favor, but you need to open your mind to them first. Most of the general population will never do this. The majority will run amok, pretending to distract themselves and numbing any sort of discomfort while blaming the world around them. These are the exact people, the type that will live forever and die oblivious to the fact that they had all the freedom in the world in their palm. However, you are not these people. There is a reason you are reading this text, and that is because of an inner truth inside you that knows something very powerful. You are free to choose. You can just ignore what has been outlined above and step back into the realm of illusion which rob everything, or you can choose to use the information as the first step to uncover your very own true potential. This is where your transformation begins. This is the point at which you seize control from the unconscious and begin to rewrite your own reality. Your shadow has been waiting for you to face it. The only question that remains is, are you ready? All your accomplishments, failures, fears, and even your desires have been sculpted by a force that exists deep within you. This force has been operating in the background, controlling the choices you make, influencing the relationships you build, and even determining the path your life takes. Without recognition, you will forever feel incomplete, like you are attempting to put a puzzle together with pieces cut into completely different shapes. No matter how much you try, you will always remain trapped in an unending cycle. You have been granted a chance to break through these never-ending barriers. However, this will not be achieved by dismissing your shadows. You integrate by accepting your full self, including every part. This is not only a level of self-awareness, but a power that can and should be reclaimed. When you take the leap to work with your shadow, instead of against it, your entire life changes. Suddenly, you stop attracting toxic circumstances, your confidence rises, and the patterns that once held you captive finally shatter. The majority of people will never arrive at this stage. Instead, they will keep distracting themselves, masking these truths under their excuses, routines, and superficial solutions. They will seek other people's approval, waiting for success, love, or money to fill the void, when in fact, the work has always been within them. / you don't see things like that anymore. You know that this is not only about psychology, but also about your control, how much authority you have over your life. And when, or if, you are prepared, truly prepared, it means that what comes next will be the most profound shift you will have experienced. / your shadow is not something that was formed overnight. It is not something that came into existence out of thin air. It is constructed, shaped by every experience and belief, every single moment in which you were instructed who you ought to be, and which aspects of yourself were supposed to be hidden. In our youthful days, we are innocent. Our feelings are expressed freely, truthfully, and shamelessly. We dance as if it were a joyous celebration, laugh when it is appropriate or not, and indulge everything in between. Then, out of nowhere, something disrupts that cycle. Society takes control. Parents correct us. Friends criticize us. Teachers discipline us, and over time we start developing a shell. We begin the process of denying ourselves the freedom of self-expression. Gradually, We conceal the essence of our being, sacrifice parts, and our inner selves to be accepted, to be loved, to be appreciated. With the passage of time, Jung called the concealed self the shadow. Every emotion we strive to conceal, each dream we neglect, and every aspect we adjudge to be inappropriate will become part of this shadow. The more people realize this is the essence of the issue, it goes beyond one's sense of inadequacy. Rather sternly, your self-imposed barriers can lock away your true strengths too, your untapped potential, the dreams you would rather remain dormant, the hidden power you were taught to never bring into light. Dismissing your shadow doesn't eliminate its presence. The more you try to ignore it, the more in control it becomes, silently shaping reality in ways you are not cognizant of. This manifests itself through self-sabotage, fear of success, destructive relationships, or the inability to escape preordained patterns that your mind has created, patterns which feel like fate but are not. Does the phrase overreacting to an emotion ring a bell? Perhaps you felt resentment out of nowhere, experienced unusually intense jealousy, or found yourself afraid of something that didn't really make sense. These are all manifestations of the shadow which needs to be recognized and addressed. But remember, shadows are not enemies. In fact, shadows serve as a guiding force. They become a source of unparalleled strength when understood. Working with shadows instead of against them brings a powerful shift. This is where the true journey starts. Not battling the shadow, but living with it. Learning to walk beside it. Not as an enemy to be fought, but as a friend to be welcomed. Real strength will never come from denying facets of you. It derives from integration, from harmony, from accepting all that you are. And once you do that, you will be forever transformed. Consider standing in front of a mirror. You regard the reflection staring back at you, the face you exhibit to the world. But behind that reflection is an entirely different persona. The persona that is termed as a shadow. The persona that is seldom acknowledged, tucked away and thrown within the deepest pit of one's mind. The part of you that was apologetically silenced, concealed, and ashamed. This is what makes up your shadow self, and for better or worse, has had profound impacts on your life. From the active participation of daily life to underlying influences, your shadow self governs every aspect of your life. It integrates itself into your thinking, activities, and alterations. It shapes the places you visit frequently, people you meet, and the attitudes you wish to inculcate. Consider the moments where you lost your cool because of trivial matters. The unnecessary surge of fury, the unwelcome swell of grief, or the panic that didn't seem logical. That was not coincidental. That was your shadow attempting to break through to the conscious world. The issue is that, for many people, stopping to really listen is the hardest step to take. Instead, they suppress it deep within themselves. They work, follow the news, dive into a TV series, get into relationships, in short, everything except actually addressing what is going on internally. They fabricate excuses for themselves, claiming their pain and fears are simply who they are, not coming to terms with the fact that pain is self-inflicted, that it can be changed, that it did not have to be a part of their future, that it was merely an effect of the underlying forces that they refused to deal with in the first place. However, when you stop running away from your shadow and decide to confront it head-on, things start to get exciting. The things that once controlled you slowly stop doing so. The fears that forced most of your decisions are starting to fade away. The self-hatred that has been holding you down for far too long begins to lift. The truth is, when you choose not to take responsibility, surrendering is the alternative. The ignored part of yourself doesn't cease to exist, rather matures and hibernates until exposed. They will impact you, even if you struggle to comprehend it. They form your choices, your relationships, your view of what reality is, but the second you shine a light on them, they cease to have power over you. What's the first step to regaining control? The first step is knowing what needs to be changed. Identify things that trigger intense emotions. And opposed to acting according to how you're feeling, attempt to understand why you are feeling this way and what is currently being shown to you. The majority of individuals will so easily dismiss these opportunities. They subconsciously choose to continue existing in disbelief. They choose to believe the fault lies with an outside source, life, or even fate. However, there's always enough space for hope. Life can be perceived in a brighter spectrum. The reality is, the shift and change you seek all lies within you. After all, the exterior is simply a reflection of the internal struggle rooted deep within. Once you begin to perceive your shadow the way the world views it, the next step is accepting it. Silence yourself and feel free to stare off into a void. Now, with your eyes closed, ponder over, what are you afraid of? Sure, your mind has a tendency to be clouded with distractions, yet only that will lead towards you reaching optimal success. The secret to self-improvement is simply accepting the existence of hard truths and facing them head-on. However, don't cease your efforts. Continue your inquiries. Most importantly, be attentive. Then came the most decisive of all, integration. All the things you've been forced to deny within yourself are, in fact, the deepest potential for power you possess. Anger? It doesn't equate to destruction. It's a passion, a raging fire ready to be harnessed towards change. Fear? It's not a weakness, but a pointer guiding you straight to your next possible breakthrough. Jealousy? It certainly is not something to be ashamed of. Rather, it indicates what you were meant to claim. Most people will never do this work. They will continue running around trying to numb the pain or discomfort they might be facing, all the while convincing themselves that change is not necessary. The sad reality is that a vast majority of people spend their entire lives caged in an invisible prison, completely oblivious to the fact that they have always possessed the key to their liberation. But this does not apply to you, for you are aware of the truth. It is now clear to you that the shadow is not your enemy, but rather a vital piece you are always missing. The second you decide to accept it is when you stop getting manipulated by it. You become whole. You embrace your true power. That is when everything shifts.